Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 259 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Orlando, Florida, where I'm in town to deliver a program for private industry and for a short family vacation. By the time this episode airs, I will have completed a consulting and teaching contract for the Naval Sea Systems Command, or NAVSEA for short, at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii. This is the second naval shipyard to hire my company to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at their facilities. And I'm very thankful to NAVSEA and their staff for their faith and confidence in my message. And while I was in Hawaii, it was no vacation. The assessments required 12-hour workdays, followed by 3 days of customized training for more than 1,000 shipyard employees. Okay, today's feature segment allows you to sit in on a segment of a live presentation that I did a few weeks ago at the Ponderosa Fire Department in Houston, Texas. We broadcasted this segment on Facebook Live, and I'm sharing it with you here to give you an idea of some of the things that we would talk about during a live event. Keep in mind, this is a relatively short segment of a full day program. So here's a glimpse into a live event. There's got to be some place in the brain where all the puzzle pieces all get put together, and there is. It is the place in the brain where you have consciousness. If this part of your brain were ever damaged from injury or disease, you might live in a permanent comatose state, never again able to be conscious. Pretty important. It's also the place in the brain where you form your situational awareness. And that's what really makes it important. And I want to show you where that happens. It happens right here on your magical, mystical Etch-a-Sketch. Yeah. That's about as complex as the neuroscience is going to get today, by the way. Every one of us has an Etch-a-Sketch inside of our brain. And it truly is a magic screen. Everything you see, hear, feel, taste, and smell travels down those 5 highways and lands on the Etch-a-Sketch as a picture. Now, before I get too far down the rabbit hole of talking about the Etch-a-Sketch, does everybody in the room know what an Etch-a-Sketch is? We all okay? Anybody need some guidance with that? Young man, you got it?
I was looking around for the young guys.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Now, the reason I ask that is I actually was doing a program once where I had like 300 college kids in the program, and I was talking about the Etch-a-Sketch, and I was about 20 minutes into that, and one young man raised his hand and he said, "What's an Etch-a-Sketch?" And I'm like, damn, I didn't see that coming. And so I had to explain it to him, what it was. And I said, well, it's a plastic box about the size of a book, and it's got 2 little knobs on the bottom left and bottom right, and it's got a screen in the middle, and as you turn the one knob, the stylus behind the screen goes up and down, leaves and draws a line. And as you turn the other one, the stylus goes left and right, and it draws a line. And if you get really good at it, you can turn both knobs and make diagonal lines and circles and curves. And some people are really good at drawing pictures on the Etch-a-Sketch. And I said, does that help? And he said, yeah, I got it. He said, it's like a paint program for old people. That's what he said to me. And I wanted to chop him down, but there was like 300 of them, and I was the only old guy in the room. So I play it cool, Rich. Don't chop him up. And so I just had to laugh and say, it's funny, paint program for the old people. Hilarious, kid, hilarious. But know this, listen carefully. Everything you see, hear, feel, taste, and smell travels down those 5 highways and lands on the Etch-a-Sketch as a picture. If there's no picture, you don't understand. There has to be a picture. Now this happens in a space that's behind the curtain, so you don't really see the pictures, but you know the pictures are being drawn. You know it. You've carried on a conversation with somebody, and you've said something to somebody, and you're not sure they got it, and so you ask them, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I mean? And maybe they say, yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. We do literally see the meaning of words. If we don't, we might say, no, I don't see what you mean. Sorry, I don't see what you mean when you're saying that. Or if you may be in the presence of somebody who's told a joke. And some comedians make humor out of very serious subjects. That's part of what they do. And that's really part of what we do too, is we find ways to make serious things funny. It's kind of like part of our coping mechanism that we either laugh or we cry about some of the things that we have to deal with. And we find a way to make it funny and laugh. But some of the things that we find funny about serious things, other people wouldn't find funny. We couldn't tell some of the things that we think is humorous to an extended family gathering at Thanksgiving because they would think that we need help. And maybe we do, but we're just being humorous as we are. Now, when somebody tells humor like that, something intended to be funny out of a very dark subject, there may be somebody who might say, I don't see how that is funny. I do not see that as humorous at all. And what that person is saying is, as you told the story, your words painted pictures on their mind, and when it painted the picture, what it painted was not a funny picture, it was a serious picture. And therefore, they do not in their mind see the humor that we intended. We also, you might say, well, I understand how we see things visually. You've explained how I see words. Words paint pictures. You actually also see smells. You see smells. How can we see a smell? Here's how. Let me give you an example of this. I came down the elevator this morning at my hotel. The elevator doors opened, and I went, oh, we're having bacon for breakfast. There's bacon on the buffet. But I couldn't see the buffet. I could only smell it. So how did I know that the smell was bacon? For me to know that smell was bacon, my brain has to go into memory and say, do I have a picture that matches that smell? You remember earlier I told you that nothing that you see gets inside your brain. All the light ends at the eyes. Nothing that you hear gets inside of your brain. All the sounds end at the ears. Nothing that you smell gets inside your brain. All the smell ends at the snot layer in the nose. The nerves inside the nose take the smell, turn the smells into electricity, and send the electricity as a code to the Etch-a-Sketch. When that code, that, just say a series of numbers, reaches the Etch-a-Sketch, the brain then says, do I have any pictures that match the code of that smell? And if that number, which is the code for the smell, matches a picture, it will bring that picture down onto the Etch-a-Sketch, and then we consciously are aware that that smell is bacon, because the picture it matched up to was the picture of bacon. We see the smell of bacon in the form of a visual imagery. Again, we don't realize consciously that our brain is doing this. If you smell something that's an unusual smell you've never smelled before, there's no mental code, no picture stored for what the meaning is of that smell, and we may end up confused. So the brain processes everything as a picture. No picture, no understanding. Now this is where it can get a little bit challenging in one area of situational awareness called shared awareness. Shared awareness is the ability of a sender to send a message and the receiver to understand the message as the sender intended the message to be. Like throughout the course of the entire class today, what I'm doing is I'm sending messages verbally and hoping that I'm drawing the right picture on your mind. I'm hoping that what I'm saying you understand, and I hope that I make it easy to understand using analogies like puzzle pieces and etch-a-sketches and building houses, because the neuroscience is very complex, but when you can make an analogy that of something that we're all familiar with, it kind of makes it easier for us to visually see the picture and understand. That's what I'm trying to do throughout the course of the whole day. Now here's one thing that I can tell you for sure, completely with certainty. Everything I say to you today, everything is going to make sense to me. Guarantee it. It's going to make sense to me because I know what I want to say. I know the picture in my mind. I know how to articulate the words that make that picture come out my mouth. What I don't know is those words going to draw the right picture on your mind? That I do not know. That's what an instructor would hope, that if they say something that isn't clear, the student will speak up and say, I don't get it. But in most classes, high school and college, the kids don't do that. They don't ever speak up and tell the professor, you're talking up here and I'm learning down here, and there's a big disconnect between your big brain and my still trying to learn, and they don't share awareness. They don't create a common understanding. So that's part of what we'll try to do throughout today, is make sure that it is easy to digest, easy to understand, easily drawn and understood pictures. So you've got this picture on the sketch pad, which is the assembly of the jigsaw puzzle. That picture then gets snapshotted or screenshotted and set up into memory to do a search of your long-term memory database. Now, this is a big search, huge. How big is long-term memory? Massive. The average person, that's all of us, average people. The average person's long-term memory capacity is estimated to be about 10 times all the information stored on the internet. Imagine that. The entire internet's capacity times 10 is your storage capacity. Access to that information, that's a whole other issue. The average person, that's us, can only consciously access or recall about 5% of the long-term memory database. Which means 95% of everything you've ever experienced in life is completely outside of awareness. You don't even know it's in there. Think about the driving experience last May 1. No memory of it. That subconscious database is huge. I mean, look, you got this big green space, everything in the subconscious, including driving from May 1. And then everything in this tiny little gray space, your conscious memory, which you might, if you have a memory of driving here this morning, it might still be in the little 5% gray wedge. But a week from now, it's going to be gone. It's going to go off into the abyss of the 95%. Your stored subconscious memories of training, calls, driving experiences reside in the big 95% database. Your brain can tap into that. It can tap into that knowledge store, which is awesome. So you got the picture on the database, or the picture on the sketch pad, the puzzle put together, screenshotted, set up in the memory to do the file search. Searching both databases, the 5% and the 95%. If it finds a match, and that's what it's looking for, matches, it's looking for solutions. If it finds a match that is part of the 95% that is outside of conscious awareness, it can trigger the sixth sense. The sixth sense is the only sense that resides inside the brain and sends information outward. The other five senses are all on the outside of the brain, send information inward. Ears are on the outside, send the information in. Eyes are on the outside, send the information in. The sixth sense is on the inside, sends the information out. Works in the opposite fashion of the other five senses. And that sixth sense that resides inside your brain and sends the information out, it has a name. We call it intuition. What is intuition? Intuition. The definition of intuition is strange. Strange. Intuition means knowing. Without knowing, how you know. Huh? How do you know if you don't know how you know? Huh? Intuition does not come to us as knowledge. Intuition comes to us as a feeling. We feel intuition. How? There are predominantly four ways that you are likely to experience intuition in a high-risk environment. First, you may have the hair stand up on the back of your neck, goosebumps down your arms, spidey senses on high alert, and all of a sudden your vigilance goes way up. You are now on super alert level, all triggered by the feeling of the hair on the back of the neck and the goosebumps on the arms and that tingly sensation that we get that something ain't right. You may also get those internal voices talking to you. We talked earlier about that internal voice, that self-speak, the one we ask the questions to and then give the answers back. That internal voice might be talking to us and might be trying to give us good advice, give us good counsel. The internal voice might say something to you in a high-risk environment like, you know, you really shouldn't be here. You know, you really shouldn't be doing this. You know, you should be leaving. You know, this isn't a good idea. The internal voice is trying to give us counsel, trying to guide us based on what it has seen in the subconscious stores of knowledge, trying its best to give us good advice. You may also get an impending feeling of doom, a feeling that your time on this planet is about to be cut short, that you are at the finality of life. Now, let me pause here for a moment and give a plug for my podcast radio show, which is also now video on YouTube. So I have a show called Situational Awareness Matters Show. I launched that show back in 2014 to give voice to people who've had near misses. People just like you who've had a near miss experience, and they say, "Hey, I had a near miss," and I say, "Well, let's do an interview. You've had one. That one. We should do a podcast." I've got it captured on Facebook Live. You got to do it now, dude. Will you do it?
Sure.
See, I got a commitment. It's recorded. You're obligated to it now. But in fact, a lot of my interviews have come from Texas because I've done a lot of programs in Texas. So I have people. That's where they come from. They come from people in a class who say, "I've had this event. I lived. I've got a story to tell. I've got experiences to share." And you'd be surprised, maybe not, but I am surprised at how many of them talk about these forms of intuition when they're in their high-risk, high-consequence environment. And some of them have said, "I had this impending feeling of doom, this feeling that this was it. I'm at the finality of life." Now, you might think that when somebody gets to that point in a situation, that they would like maybe get their freak on. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. They got a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of this is how it ends for me, and I'm going to be okay with that. I don't know why. I wish I could give you an explanation. I don't know why. All I can tell you is you should listen to those interviews. Those people have some amazing stories. Some of them worked right beside someone else who got killed. And I interviewed the survivors. And some of their stories are incredible. I mean, the kind of things that Hollywood movies would be made out of. And these are our peeps. So again, some of them right here from Texas. One of them, Jason Corthell. Jason was in one of my classes. He talked about this near-miss event that he had, and we ended up doing a podcast interview. And what happened was he was going up a set of exterior stairs that were made of concrete, and the stairs collapsed. And when the stairs collapsed, all the concrete and everything come down on him and smashed him flat under the weight.
Commercial apartment
building, 3-story apartment building. And Jason was buried under this concrete, but he wasn't dead. But he was smashed flat, so he couldn't even get his radio to call a mayday because he's smashed flat. And he's busted up bad. And somebody else who saw it happen called the mayday. He was heading up to the 3rd floor where the fire was. I mean, for really almost inexplainable reasons why these stairs collapsed. There must have been some design flaw or something. I mean, because they weren't on fire and they were concrete. So you wouldn't think that would happen, but it did. And he and another firefighter were pinned under concrete. And Jason, I'll let you listen to the interview because it truly is a very compelling story. But I do remember that Jason shared this. He said, I prayed to God that I would die quickly so I wouldn't suffer, so I wouldn't be in pain. I prayed to die fast. Now, they got him out. He lived. He's back on the job. These stories are amazing. Amazing. You need to listen to them. I'm telling you. There are 254 episodes. Not every one of them is an interview. But those interviews, incredible and valuable lessons. The most common form of intuition, even though you can experience any of these three, the most common form of intuition is not any of these three, but it is rather this, the gut feeling. That knotted up, squeezed up feeling in our gut that something isn't right, that I shouldn't be here, that I shouldn't be doing this. There's an emotional control center in your brain that when your brain finds that match from the subconscious stores of knowledge, it sends a message to the emotional control center, which sends messages down nerve impulses, down nerves that impulse down and down the spinal cord, split off and come into the gut. And when you get that knotted up, squeezed up feeling in your gut, it's your brain's biology trying to alert you to the potential for the danger that you are in. Truly, intuition is the brain's single most powerful red flag warning system, designed to alert us to the potential for danger. But there's some problems that we need to know about. I mean, the database is massive. That big green base, that's all the subconscious knowledge. Huge. But there are some problems with intuition, and we need to acknowledge those. First problem is that it is very easy for us to trust our conscious knowledge. It's very easy for us to trust that little 5% wedge, and not so easy to trust the 95% of knowledge. Imagine if you had a fireground commander whose intuition was telling them, hey, we should pull everybody out and go defensive. And then they make the decision, I'm going to pull everybody out and go defensive. And everybody comes out and somebody comes up to them and says, why did you pull everybody out and go defensive? We were making a hit on it. We were making progress. Why did you do that? And imagine if the commander said, I was just listening to the voices in my head. They might be criticized for that. Or I just had a gut feeling. And that told me what to do. Let me share with you a story from a program that I did in Indiana. I had about 150 people in this program, and I was right at this point of the program when the chief of the host department come up and he come to the front of the room. And he told an amazing story. A story so compelling that I asked him, can I share this with others? And he said, yes, you can. So I'm going to share with you his story. His name was Keith Smith. Keith was a battalion chief in the Indianapolis Fire Department when one evening, just before midnight, they got dispatched for a report of a fire in a hotel just off the downtown of Indianapolis. And Chief Smith responded to the call, and it was a working fire on the 3rd floor in the ballroom. And they had I don't remember, but I think they went to a second alarm, and they had all the companies there working. And the interior crew reported, we got a knockdown on the fire, did a real aggressive advancement of lines. We got a knockdown on the fire command. That's good news, knockdown on the fire. And then Chief Smith got a terrible gut feeling that something was going to go wrong, that something tragic was going to occur. He didn't know why. He only had the feeling. And he said, I made a decision. I'm going to pull everybody out and go defensive. Now imagine how hard that is to make a decision, pull everybody out to go defensive after the fire's already been knocked down. They're already in overhaul mode. You can imagine the criticism is going to come when you say, no, everybody out. What do you mean out? The fire's out. He was getting ready to make that decision, and the safety officer walked up to him and said, hey, Chief, how do you think things are going? And Chief Smith said, I don't think things are going well. I think we should pull everybody out and go defensive. And the safety officer said, really, why are you saying that? And Chief Smith said, I don't know. I don't know. I just have a feeling. And the safety officer said, I think everything's going well. And Chief Smith said, really, how could you say that? And the safety officer pulled out the worksheet. Look, Chief, we've got an incident command, ops person, safety person. We've got a lobby sector, attack line, backup line, vent crew, search crew, EMS, rehab, staging, air bottles, lines are going here, venting's happening here. And there he had it, all these facts and data.
Doesn't work that way.
I know. He had it all right there. And he was using that to convince Chief Smith that they had a solid plan. And the safety officer then turned back to Chief Smith and said, now, why do you think things aren't going well? And Chief Smith had nothing. And Chief Smith turned to his safety officer at that moment and said, you know, that burrito I ate for dinner just isn't sitting right with me tonight. He dismissed his intuition as indigestion. And the safety officer went off and was doing his thing. And about 20 minutes after that conversation, there was a mayday. And 2 firefighters died in the Athletic Club Hotel fire in downtown Indianapolis. A fire that Chief Smith stood in front of this audience and said, I knew it was going to happen. 20 minutes before it happened, I knew it was going to happen. I knew! I just didn't know how I knew, but I knew. And I didn't do anything to stop it. He knew, but didn't stop it. Now, after the class was over, I went up to him and I said, Chief, I got a question for you, because I have read that incident report. I don't remember anything in that incident report about this conversation between you and your safety officer. Did I miss that in the report, or do I just not remember that it was in the report? He said, no, it wasn't in the report. I said, why? That's pretty important information. Why wasn't it in the report? And he said, no one ever asked. So I didn't tell. He said, in fact, I've not told this story but maybe 2 times or 3 times in the last 20 years. I've not told anybody this story. He said, I had no intention of telling this story in class today. He said, you said something that inspired me to stand up and tell these attendees how important that gut feeling was, if only I would have listened to it. He said, I had no intentions of standing up and telling that story. And there he stood, a man in his 60s, tears rolling down his cheeks, telling that audience, trust your gut. Even if you don't understand why, trust it. He said, or you may live as I do every day with the regret. The regret that I knew that I could stop it, but I didn't. Now, there's a second problem with intuition, and we need to acknowledge this. Your intuition can be wrong. Whoa, wait, what? Rich, I thought you were trying to talk me in to trusting my intuition. I am. You should. But now you're telling me it can be wrong. That's right, it can be wrong. So maybe I shouldn't trust it. That's right, maybe you shouldn't. But you're telling me I should trust it. That's right, you should. Well, how can I trust it and not trust it at the same time? The answer is you can't. I sense a great confusion in the force, Luke. Let me bring clarity as to when you should and should not trust your gut. Thank you to Fire Chief Fred Windisch for hosting the program. This was the 3rd presentation for the Ponderosa Fire Department, and while I was there, I also did programs for the Baytown Fire Department and the Northwest Fire District. Well, I never thought I'd get this far, but here we are. We have reached the 5th anniversary of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm very proud of that. We are the longest running, consistently broadcasted, independently operated internet show focused on a singular mission, and that is to improve safety and survival for individuals and teams who work in high stress, high consequence environments. Let me pause for a moment to elaborate on one component of that last statement, the consistently broadcasted part. A new episode of this show has been released every Tuesday for the past 5 years, and I've never missed putting out a new episode on a Tuesday. Never, ever. No other podcaster in this space can make that claim. In fact, most podcasters fade out after just a dozen or so episodes, and or post new episodes very inconsistently. Not me, though. You can set your clock by the fact that you're going to have a new podcast episode in your inbox or in your feed every Tuesday morning to watch or listen to. That's my promise to you. Now, I have to admit, it's not always easy promise to keep. The travel schedule sometimes means that I'm recording these episodes after midnight on a Monday night because I know I have to keep the promise to have the episode ready, up and loaded, ready to go by 7 a.m. And I totally understand why other podcasters fade or they're inconsistent. As I've stated in the past few episodes, it can get pretty lonely here in the podcasting world behind the microphone or camera. And by lonely, I mean that podcasters or video casters rarely get any feedback from you, the viewers and listeners. Sure, we get the stats that tell us our episodes are getting thousands of downloads and views, but rarely does anyone ever write a review or send an email with some feedback about the show. So I rarely know whether the show is inspiring others or not, but it inspires me, and I just keep on keeping on, putting out the best possible safety-focused content that I can. But after I shared my loneliness in the last episode, I received this email from John Kraus. Dr. Gassaway, you mentioned in your recent podcast that you don't receive a lot of feedback about your show, so I just wanted to say hello and to congratulate you on 5 years going strong. Your work on behalf of the fire service is greatly appreciated. I had the opportunity to hear you speak at the Norfolk County, Massachusetts Fire Chiefs Association seminar and subscribe to your podcasts after that. I can't say that I always look forward to every week's episode, given that they regularly remind us of the injuries and tragedies that continue to affect the fire service. But I always find the episodes valuable and have encouraged others to tune in and take up the cause of situational awareness. As an on-call firefighter EMT in a suburban combination fire department and not being an officer, sometimes it can be very difficult to be an agent of change. But having been on the department for over 20 years, I recognize that leadership is from the ground up and often more important than the top down, and I try to be a positive influence on my fellow firefighters. Well, thank you, John, for doing that. He continues on, I try to throw out to our training officers some suggestions to break up the routines, such as pulling up to the training exercise and not making entry as you teach, and that is part of the Training for Failure program. A few times I've been on a response and recalled some of the snippets of your past episodes of near misses and decided to take an extra precaution or prompt the officer to make the 360-degree size up to ensure it was completed. So while the fire service still has a lot of work to do, I know that it's important that it's an important situational awareness message getting around even to the small towns here in Massachusetts. Thank you again for your dedication to the mission, and congratulations on your success, John Kraus. Thank you, John. Your feedback really made my day. It made my week, and it made my month.
This is so stressful, okay? I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Rich Gassaway for something. I'm not really sure what it is. It has something to do with podcasts, which what is a podcast? And his message does suck. Oh my God, situational awareness. What the hell? I mean, suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, are you kidding me? We've got to be situationally aware. Why don't you open your eyes and look around? 360 degrees, that's all you got to do.
To honor those who are watching and listening to this show, I'm going to do a giveaway of some products from our sponsors and supporters. Keep watching the upcoming episodes and keep an eye on the SAMatters website for more about that. The Situational Awareness Matters show was launched in 2014 with a purpose to give a platform to those who've experienced near-miss events to share their stories, just like the ones that you heard on the episode last week. When I'm on the road delivering classes on situational awareness, I often talk to attendees about their near-miss events that they've had, and they have shared some amazing stories. It's stories like the interviews that you listen to here on the show that inspired me to reach out and do this podcast. Stories like theirs motivate me to share their lessons with you, the bigger audience. The Situational Awareness Matters show is podcasted as SAMatters Radio and its companion video program, SAMatters TV, on YouTube. And that, the videos of the show here, along with other videos, have enjoyed over 800,000 downloads. That number just blows my mind and far exceeds all my expectations. I'm so thankful for your support, and I feel so honored to be able to provide a platform for these amazing stories to be shared. If you like the show, please do me a solid favor. Please subscribe. On the YouTube, there's a subscribe button. On the podcast, you can subscribe. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, If you find the show valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give the show a rating and write a review. Your ratings and reviews will help others to find the show, but more importantly, your feedback inspires me to work harder for you.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars. SA matters.
Go versus no go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters. So don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and have trained over 75,000 individuals to improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery process operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence decision-making environment, we are here to help to improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important mission of all, and that is to go home to the ones who love you. I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent situational awareness training for their team members. The Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. The Ponderosa Fire Department in Houston, Texas. The Northwest Volunteer Fire Department in Houston, Texas. The Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii. If you're interested in where we're going to be upcoming, here's the schedule. On April 11th, we'll be at the Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. April 14 to 16 at the Washington Fire Training Officers Conference in Wenatchee, Washington. April 25 at the International Association of Fire Chiefs Company Officer Leadership Series in Atlanta, Georgia. April 27th at the Cook County Emergency Management Agency Seminar in Grand Marais, Minnesota. May 7th at the Scott Township Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana. May 8th at the Fast 19 Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And May 21 at the Washington State Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Kennewick, Washington.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff Bowen from Midwest Fire. I'm here today in the Indiana Convention Center for FDIC 2018. Today, I have the extreme pleasure of congratulating my friend, Dr. Rich Gassaway, on the 4th anniversary of this podcast. Situational Awareness Matters and Midwest Fire's missions have been perfectly aligned over the years. His energy and compassion for saving firefighters' lives lines up directly with our mission of saving your lives on the scene. Rich, congratulations on 4 years and many more, my friend.
If you want to see all the locations of all the upcoming events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the SA Matters homepage and I'll give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there are several ways you can do that. Just check the show notes for how to get connected with us by signing up for our monthly newsletter, subscribing to the SA Matters radio podcast, subscribing to the SA Matters TV YouTube channel, and how to follow us on the social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we are sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 259 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to Fire Chief Fred Windisch and the members of the Ponderosa Fire Department for allowing me to record and live stream this segment of your program. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. Hey, if you're in the market for a pumper tanker, or a brush truck, check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, organizations, and associations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted the live stream training program where I come to your organization live via the internet to train your members and to have Q&A sessions. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. The feedback I receive from the Academy graduates is just amazing and very humbling. Thank you for that. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and the viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SAMatters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.